Welcome to the JMark Business Innovation Technology Experience.
In today's episode, we are going to cover the topic of staying relevant in a changing world. Some key takeaways that we will discuss will be security. In order to stay relevant, you have to protect your business. Cybercrime is more prevalent than ever, and you have to have a security expert on your side. Technology. Technology needs to be the driving force behind your innovation. You need to ask, how can we use technology to solve this problem? And then strategy. It goes beyond just the technology. It's the strategy behind the technology that will change the game for your business. All right, let's get started.
Okay, welcome everybody. We have a fun discussion planned for today. It is November 5th, 2020, a couple days after the election. There is a lot of uncertainty going on. COVID is still among us, and there's a lot of crazy things happening in the world. And so we today are going to be talking about staying relevant in a changing world. You know, there's no, this is such a top of the mind discussion as we're moving into the end of the year. A lot of companies are doing their annual planning. A lot of companies are trying to figure out what to do. A lot of companies are trying to understand, and individuals understand what the future holds and how they should adapt to everything that's going on and everything that could go on in 2021. And so, we have seen just massive digital transformation occur in the last 6 months, 9 months, and that is changing the behaviors and changing business models. And so today we're going to talk about what it means to stay relevant in this changing world, and specifically how technology plays a role in that relevancy. Technology has become the center point of essentially everything in business. We talked a little bit about how every business is a technology business, and that has never been more true than right now. And so as we begin today, what are some of the things that you all have seen, how companies are adapting to what is going on, and how can we model those adaptations that are happening in very specific industries to other industries? Let's go.
Todd, I had a general thought, and then I'll throw it back to the group, of course. But what I've noticed of the last couple of years is IT's looked at a little bit differently. Growing up in this industry, it was always looked at as almost a cost center, right? It's money you dump in because you have to, right? I think businesses are now looking towards technology in terms of an incubator. What are ways that they can accelerate, and attribute to profit more so than just a cost center. I know Howard's been in the industry for a long time as well. I'm sure he's seen some of those changes as I just talked about.
Yeah, I think, Pete, you're right. I think a big part of that is the discussion Christina and I were having yesterday about the change. I think we're seeing part of this change as the generations shift of who are owning businesses and who are making decisions in businesses, because there's this shift in people seeing that people have grown up with technology their whole lives, the newer generation of business leaders, and they understand that technology is a problem solver. And so when they have problems, when they have challenges that they're encountering, they're looking for technology solutions, whereas I was going to say some of us older folks, including myself in that, don't always think technology first when it comes to a solution. But I think that is so vital because there are so many technology solutions out there. And I think that is changing that face of people, the way they approach technology, the way they embrace it.
I couldn't agree more. Like Pete said, there was a long time where IT was seen as a cost center. It's a place that you have to sink money because some IT guy is telling you that you have to. It's the old fix my computer, get it done mentality, rather than a strategic place for revenue generation. I think that we've all seen with the post-COVID world, the new, better normal, the companies that are still around were the ones that embrace technology. The restaurants that embraced Uber Eats and DoorDash, those guys are still around and they're doing fine. Humans still have to eat. There's only so many times a week I feel like making dinner. So whenever I pull up that app for DoorDash, I would like to see the restaurants that I used to frequent, and I want to see them after we figured out a way to go back, right? But that's just one field. You have restaurants doing that. You have telemedicine that used to be sort of a extra. It's a convenience to have telemedicine, so you don't have to make a long drive. Now it's part of life. Telemedicine is the easier, better way to get certain care. So the companies that were more focused on technology as a part of their full business, whether they're keeping the IT department in the same meetings as the C-levels, so then they can say, hey, these are the strategic components that we have coming. How can you be a part of it? How can you help? Or just, hey, we ran into this massive problem of customers aren't coming in, or they can't buy clothes here anymore because there's no way to have dressing rooms. How can you fill in this gap? Those are the businesses that are still around.
Yeah, you both touched on something or a couple things that I think are really important. Dax, you mentioned the generational aspect, which is interesting because it's I see it as not just generational, but we've all heard heard about habits, and what I've read is it takes 60 days to make a habit. Well, COVID has said, screw you, you're going to do it this way, so start liking it. And that's what's happened. We all of a sudden had to stay home. We all of a sudden, people were now working from home. We've talked about this before. There's so many people that I've talked to that hated working from home at the very beginning, and now they love it. I mean, they absolutely love it and don't want to change. And the same goes true for eating out. I mean, I used to love going out every now and then, once a week, twice a week, just to get out of the house. And now it's just like, I'm actually kind of fine just being at home, going to the store, to take a break, get some things. Now it's like, I'm fine having it delivered. And these are the fundamental changes that have changed the business world. I mean, it's rocked the business world. We've seen just in the last few months, ghost kitchens or ghost restaurants pop up where, these are businesses that have no real estate. They don't have a dining room. They don't have a drive-through. It's just a kitchen in an unmarked building that, they have Uber Eats and DoorDash and all these services that come and pick up food and it's delivered. You see, companies like Walmart who have taken this idea. They see that people want to have food delivered. They've just spun up four locations in the United States as test locations, where they are combining a distribution center with a small store, because they realize that they need lots of products in the back end to be able to support all of the deliveries that need to happen because people have changed. And so, those are just a couple of instances, but these changes, business leaders can't go into 2020 thinking that it's business as usual. Things have changed. You have to make changes, and technology is at the forefront of driving those changes. Technology is how you create the connections, how you bring people together, how you deliver the services. And there are so many businesses that are going to go into 2021, and I think we will see a huge falling out in 2021 of businesses who were just waiting to see change and didn't change. Because even when COVID ends, even when the election madness ends, behaviors are not going to change because we've gone well beyond the 60 days. They're cemented in people's souls now.
Hey, Todd, I think also along those lines is, I think the successful businesses are going to be thinking about what ifs a lot more going into 2021. So not just with the lockdown. So some businesses were were more prepared than others, right? They had plans in place with the technology. I think the business owners, the ones that are really thinking it through, are going, okay, what else can go wrong? What else could change? Do we have the right technology lined up? So not if, but maybe when this happens, we're prepared for it. So I think we're going to see a big shift in that kind of mindset of, if you asked a couple of years ago, hey, a plague's going to hit, people are going to look at you like, what are you talking about? Why are you planning for that? I think going forward, the discussion is going to be, okay, what else could happen and how could it impact our business? And what technology can we use to mitigate that if that should happen?
Pete, I couldn't agree more. The agility in a business, that's the thing that used to be, you have these tabletop, almost like role play situations where you say, if a tornado hits, if a flood hits, if whatever. And these things were always these, almost like God events, where you say, if this happens. I'm hearing more when this happens. When the market changes, when we can no longer hit profitability with this amount, whatever, then we're going to create this plan. And that's amazing, but that's relatively new to most mid-level businesses. That sort of thinking is relatively new from just having to adapt from COVID, like Todd said. You don't like that? Well, guess what? You're going to do it. Otherwise, you won't be relevant.
Yeah, I think 2020 has put people in that mindset because so many unexpected things have happened to so many people. But I wanted to give a few more examples that I saw of different industries adapting to this change. So I saw that hospitality is obviously one of the hardest hit. And there are hotels who are doing day rates for work from home employees. So like a very cheap rate with obviously like great high speed internet, where someone who's maybe tired of the kids in the background and whatnot, or maybe has an important meeting that day, can go for an affordable price and work from there. I also saw—
Christina, do you have a list of those places? That sounds like a really good idea all of a sudden.
I'll look it up. It does, right? I saw another, so gyms were obviously hit really hard. I saw a gym that was allowing people to rent out their spin bikes and then do virtual classes, which is pretty cool. Let's see. I mean, I saw a ton of awesome examples, but then there's, commercial airlines who are obviously hit just like hospitality, and they've switched to cargo only flights. So
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many changes and so many awesome examples of adaptation out there. And there's a lot of sad examples out there of people who fail to adapt too. And I think that it, brings us back to the basis of this discussion, relevance. What is relevance moving into the end of the year? Some people are looking at relevance as survival. Some people are looking at relevance as growth. And you got to look at both sides of that coin because they're so related. There are things like the backup that you mentioned, the scenarios. I mean, we have one of the most awesome backup and disaster recovery plans that I've ever seen. It is big, it's detailed, it goes into many different scenarios. We never in our wildest mind thought, let's add a pandemic scenario to it. I mean, it's just like, what? And there's things like that you cannot move forward and be relevant without a solid continuity plan in your organization. And it's not just about you got to take into account the data, where it's stored, where it is, how to access it, the access to the data, the people, how are they going to work? The security is a huge aspect. And on this same vein of relevancy, on this side of the coin of survival, you don't want to be in that condition, that situation where you are hacked in an already difficult situation and things get worse. The hacking, the security, the cybersecurity incidents have gone up 4 or 5 fold just in the last 4 or 5 months, and it's insane. And on that side of survival, I see this disaster and backup recovery planning. I see making sure that you have solid security in place. But then there's this other side of growth of relevance, because having a backup and disaster recovery plan and good security in place will keep you going if bad things happen, but it's not going to help you to thrive. And that's where these adaptations and these things like Christina mentioned and others, where you have to think strategically, how can we use technology to fix this problem? Because almost always technology is at the center, especially now, in solving the problems that exist today.
Yeah, I think it's a mindset, Todd, like you said, that people need to get into of, how do we use technology to protect our business? How do we use technology to make sure that we're prepared for trouble that comes? And then you move on to the next phase of how do we use technology to seize the opportunities that are out there right now for growth? How do we use technology to plan for the future, not just for the negative possibilities, but also for the positive possibilities? And it's this mindset of what do we do to embrace technology and help it to make our business better in every aspect.
That's so right. If you don't go through those what if scenarios, you don't know what opportunities there are out there. And I'll use the word opportunities. There are challenges, there are things that could hurt your business, but those are also the flip side of opportunity. There are a couple of really great restaurants that I like that recently went out of business, and they didn't have to. They had only focused on one mode of serving the clients post COVID. Whereas there are any number of other ways of serving clients, that like Todd said, had if you focus on DoorDash, or you focus on just closing down your main dining room, is there a way that you could take your restaurant, move it over to a place that costs nearly nothing per month, and just pump out your delicious food and get it to your people? Looking at that opportunity is something that those places clearly did not do. They only looked at the problem. They only saw, hey, there's a problem. Now what? They didn't look at the opportunity. There's opportunity for growth right there. One of the things that Todd brought up was the backups. So backups used to only be the concern for rolling back data, right? Like, oh, I overwrote something. Oh, accounting made a mistake. Whoop, Shirley forgot something, and now we got to bring it back from 29 days ago. The probability that your company is going to be hit by a ransomware is, I believe it's 100% at this point. The number of attacks versus the number of businesses are greater. So you have companies that have been hit multiple times is how that number comes out to being. Is that, you have a company that was hit once, they may still be on the radar. They may not have done enough to create layers between them and the bad guys, right? So you end up with a company that might do everything in the world to protect them from the bad guys getting in, but not have adequate restoration capabilities. Their backups weren't what's called immutable. There isn't a layer of protection between the bad guys and the backup systems themselves. So the bad guys find a way in, delete those backups, and then hit you with the ransomware that you think you're protected against. Well, now you can't roll back. You can't get your business back. And that might be the difference between shutting your doors and being able to just bring yourself back on business, bring yourself back online.
Yeah, when I look at the security metrics or cybersecurity attacks over the last year, it's kind of interesting because I can actually correlate attacks that have hit my inbox to those numbers. So at the beginning of the year, I was maybe getting one attack every couple of weeks. And I get a lot because I'm emailing, 100,000 prospects on a weekly basis out of my account. And if they get attacked and they get infected, then it sends out to everybody in there that's ever emailed them. And so I was getting one every couple of weeks, and then it slowly started increasing to, in the summer, it was, and moving into a little bit of the fall, it was about one a week. The last few weeks, I've been getting about 4 or 5, or one a day. And the last few weeks have been moved into about 4 or 5 a day. And these are valid attacks that if I clicked on the link, it would cause problems for me and the company. And we have seen in the last 2 weeks, at least 2 organizations locally that are IT companies, or that take care of IT or software for businesses, that have been hit by ransomware. this exact scenario, because it doesn't take just an executive. I mean, it can be anybody in the company that clicks on the stupid email and wipes you out. And it's it's just increasing massively, and we can't ignore that. So it's very true.
Yeah, I think, again, to go back to my favorite word of the day, opportunity. I mean, we know that the bad guys, that is their mindset. They are constantly looking for every opportunity that they can exploit at any end of things. And I think, this can be, that type of thing can be scary for, especially for smaller business owners. But I think that's where you start looking at MSPs and at IT providers that specialize in security, that they can help you. These challenges can be overcome, and want to make sure that we keep the balance between like keeping people eyes open but not frozen in fear, not worried that they can't do anything about it, but eyes open and go out and get help to make sure that you are taking care of your business with the backups, with the security, and looking at this problem holistically in the way that Todd, you and Howard are talking about.
Yeah, this whole idea of staying relevant is difficult for a lot of companies, and like you were saying, Howard, there are different restaurants that you've frequented before that just didn't adapt. And the thing is that people go into business because they love what they do. They love cooking food for people. They love just different aspects of things. And when you're in this mindset of solving this problem, a lot of people can't look outside that mindset because they only know what they know. They know restaurant, they know they know cooking, they know hospitality, whatever it is. And the idea of how do I adapt and grow and innovate it's not an insult to anybody, but it is beyond your ability, not because you're dumb. It's beyond your ability because your background and specialty is very laser focused, and you need to bring other resources and other ideas. And sure, you can always just dive into what's happening in the world, restaurants, how can I take this innovation from this restaurant and apply this to my business? And how can I take this innovation from a restaurant and apply it to my service business? And different things you can do like that. But like you were talking about, Dax, you have to bring in this other knowledge that knows technology, that understands technology, that looks at your technology, looks at your goals, looks at your growth, looks at your problems, and makes recommendations and gives you ideas on how to carry forward into the future. And that's exactly what one of the high point that JMark offers our clients, and is that ongoing strategic support. But it's and it's on that vein, it's difficult too, because a business owner doesn't, it's hard to look at somebody or have a conversation with somebody and go, they are an expert in this, because that's not your field. They may be talking about these things that are above your head, but that's not their field. And that's where things get dicey. And we've had a lot of discussions about this in the past, because there are so many companies that will reach out to a technology organization to help them to figure out their strategy, and they're just not up to the level to be able to assist. They're not skilled. They may know technology, but they don't know the strategy of technology. These Facebook groups I'm in, that I see them every single day, and I stop myself often from taking a screenshot and sending it to our social media coordinator, because they drive me crazy of an IT business owner that takes on these accounts and doesn't have a clue of what they're doing. They don't understand the regulations in that industry. They don't understand the security. They don't understand the future of the organization. And that's where it's so volatile right now, is you can't just trust your future to somebody or an organization that doesn't understand your industry, doesn't understand what's going on, doesn't understand how organizations are adapting, and doesn't understand how to protect organizations. And so it's a tough world right now for business owners, because there's a lot of variabilities.
Yeah, Todd, I think you had a lot of you had a lot of great points. One of which that really stands out for me is what COVID has taught us is shedding the ego. What I mean by shedding the ego is maybe you have a business that has an IT department, or you have a small IT department internal, and they're fantastic at keeping the systems up and running, but maybe they're not as versed in all the changes in security happening. I think business owners need to have that honest conversation going, you know what, we're good, but not great. We need to go ahead and seek out the experts. I think more than ever, it's just so important to find those people that specialize in these different areas to be able to help consult, because you know what, just because you've been in IT doesn't mean you necessarily understand everything that's going on in the security world. I think the best of the best are looking out and going, you know what, we think we're doing well, but what is the best of the best doing? Can you give us some direction? I think that's the big trend we're going to see. As an IT person, I understand that. It's like, you want that, sometimes that protection that, you know what, we've been doing it this way for so long, things are fine, we haven't been hacked. But I think the mentality needs to shift from I'm an IT guy to I'm a business guy, right? Business person first, technology second, right? I might be a network admin, but what do I need to be doing to help protect our business? Let's bring in some expert. Let's have some conversation. Anyway, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I think, Pete, that to lose that ego, to shed that ego, it shouldn't be hard. I mean, because this is, and Todd, you touched on this. It's not. It's okay that you cannot be an expert in everything, even if you're even if you're the IT guy or a member of a small IT department. You might want to be, but simply there is not enough time. I mean, Howard, you and Pete, you especially, leading our training at JMark, you guys, I'm sure, can both speak to the amount of time that is spent right now by engineers and technicians at JMark learning these things that we're speaking about security, and simply the amount of time that they spend staying on top and keeping those skills fresh in order to be ready for these challenges.
We had talked about this in other podcasts before, but it's completely relevant to this conversation of staying relevant, continuing education. You have to stay up on what is new, what is applicable to your industry, and then also think about what is in other industries that's working for them. What is something that's working for perhaps retail that I could adapt into my service industry? What is something that's working for hospitality that perhaps will work for me in my warehousing industry or distribution industry? There are a lot of things in business that cross-sell, that they work together. And just because it's inherent to perhaps banking doesn't mean that it's not going to be great in your professional services company.
I think you touched upon something there that's a little bit outside of the typical stuff we talk about, but is very relevant to this discussion. In that, right now with everything going on, people often just want to, end the day and sit in front of a TV, veg, or do something that just takes their mind away from all of the problems. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, everything in moderation, so to speak. But this is the time more than ever when we need to be consuming knowledge from many different sources. And that brings me to another topic of what we were talking about before, in this idea of technology. The idea of technology means something different to different people. Some people think about logistics systems and the technology to get something delivered from one place to another. And there's something there. There's the technology of being able to do online ordering, which may be different areas of something. What I've seen a lot of immature IT companies do is that they go into a business and try to be all things technology to these organizations, whether it's web design or evaluating just any software out there, their IT systems, their security, their cloud, their backup. And that's not bad if the company is mature and is large enough that they have enough people and resource and expertise and partners to help with those things. But more often than not, what I'm seeing is these companies that want to go in and be all things to all people and just don't have the skills. And right now, speed is the winner. You have to have speed. You can't take anything that is happening in the next month or two and take it at a brisk, slow walk of a pace. You have to be fast in every aspect, and that's innovation, that's technology, that's the culture of the organization, connectivity. It's moving. And the beauty of people and companies that move quickly and that have technology in place that allow them to move quickly is that they don't have to wait to see what happens, because when something happens, they can quickly adapt and they can quickly overcome. Whereas companies who just wait and to let's see what's happens are the ones that just are never going to get a foot, because they're always going to be falling behind. Their competition is going to be doing things and they're not. And, not to drone on about this, but speed is, in my opinion, the #1 factor to stay relevant with everything that's going on right now.
There's nothing worse than the regret of missed opportunity, Todd. You see the opportunity, but you're not in a position to take advantage of the opportunity because you built yourself into some sort of a static or monolithic business model that you can't adapt. That's the worst as a business owner. You're looking at it and you're saying, I see the opportunity. I see that I need to be doing these things. Okay, so now you see it today. And then it takes you 90 days, 120 days to make the necessary changes in your organization to be able to take advantage of what was relevant 120 days ago. That's awful. That's the worst. You're watching your revenues go out the door. You're watching your opportunity go out the door. And you're watching your competition, who was nimble, who was agile, take advantage of the market as it was. And you are trying to catch up to just where it is now. That's a tough place to be.
Yeah, absolutely, Howard. Another great point about as far as missed opportunities. I would recommend for businesses, as you're having these conversations, talking to experts, ask them this simple question: what are you going to do? How are you going to work with us to help keep us relevant? What is your plan? How are you training your people? What are you doing? What are you doing to be industry leaders to help us move our business forward? If they don't have an answer for that, I'd be a little worried if they don't know exactly how they're going to keep you relevant, because that's where, like Todd talked about, speed, and not just speed, but speed and hitting the milestones and hitting the things that are relevant to the business are more important than ever now.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I know we in this podcast we never want to talk too much, get too much rah J-Mark, but I think that's one thing that is super important in the way that we help our customers is we have a process. If someone comes to us and asks us that question that you just asked, Pete, we have a process that we can show them. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. We talk about this in another entire podcast about this proven process that we have formulated and tested and revised and refined over the years to get, because that's our entire goal. We want to get our clients and their organizations to a place where they are constantly ready to innovate, where they are stable and secure, and they are ready to innovate and use technology to do all of the things that we're talking about, not just staying relevant, but leading the changes in their industry or area or the places they're doing their business.
Well, Dax, at the risk, of J-Mark rah, I'll say this: we're people first, technology second. And one of the many things that we do is that we're constantly evolving ourselves to better support our clients. We know that not all answers for your business are going to be technology related. We know that just fixing your computer isn't the goal. We know that we need to be in a place to strategically be ready for you when you do change. We do know that those things are going to happen. And that's a huge core component of JMark, is that we are looking out for our businesses, not just their PCs. We do the PCs. That's very important, but we're looking out for where they're going to be and what strategic changes we're going to have to be ready for when they adapt.
I think one of the upcoming challenges for businesses, in terms of change, is most people don't like change. In order to do what we're talking about, to stay relevant, to make sure you're on top of your game in these different areas, I think there has to be some type of cultural shift within businesses, where people have to not just embrace change, right? We've all heard that. Embrace change. You got to be excited about change. You have to be like, yes, a new process. It's going to make things better, and here's why. Not, oh, we have to change yet again for a business. We have, yet again, another problem. I think it really has to be a mentality flip. I really do, where it's like, great, we have a new process in place that's going to allow us to do this. What else can we do to take us further? It's not just the business leaders. It's being able to communicate that throughout the business. So everyone from the newest person in the organization to the CEO is like, in order to survive, in order not just survive, but thrive, we have to not just embrace change. We got to be excited. We got to go after change. We have to find ways to get a little bit better than yesterday.
So well said.
I agree with you completely. And something that kind of hit me when you guys were talking is, going back to a little bit to what we were talking about bringing in the expertise, is I've seen some companies recently that have adapted, but they've adapted and wasted time in ways that aren't helpful. Just the one example that hits me is I saw a email or notification this morning that Slack developed the ability within their app to see the productivity of their work at home users. Well, productivity of any user is important. There's no doubt about that. But data goes over and over and over that work from home users are generally, not just generally, but more often than not, very, very productive, more productive than in-office users. What kind of damage to your culture are you doing to see, man, if I get up to go to the bathroom, is somebody going to think that's a bad, if I'm a few minutes back from lunch, if someone going to think that, I'm not working hard, or, things like that. And I read about another story actually last night where a CEO who was obviously just crazy got a app developed behind the scenes secretly and deployed it to their computer, to their customer or to their employee computers, that allowed the CEO to turn on the webcam and watch their employees. I mean, holy hell. That is like, you want to kill innovation? You want to kill relevancy? You want to kill your morale? Start doing things like that. And I'm not just like beating on these stupid ideas, or these ideas that I think are stupid, but just when you're trying to be relevant in a world that is rapidly changing, don't waste your time on stupid projects and stupid innovations that actually don't help your organization to be relevant. It's many people have these ideas of, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. We've seen this over and over, where an idea in a bubble is rarely a great idea. You have to talk to the experts that understand things and go, yeah, there might be some holes in that idea, and here's why, or that's a great idea. This is how we can help actually make that go faster. And so, with this idea of speed and relevancy, not wasting time doing things that actually don't contribute to your relevance is just as important as spending time on the things that do contribute, because you can't focus on both. So you got to focus on growth. You got to focus on security. You got to focus on adapting. And if you're wasting your time and your resources on these other projects that actually don't help, you're putting, shooting yourself in the foot for the future.
Yeah, Todd, I think more so than ever, you have to say no to the good to accept the great. And man, that's hard. in our own business, we're constantly challenged with that. Is there's more things to do than we're ever going to have a chance to get done. It's what do we need to be working on right now that's going to allow us to be relevant, not just today, but next week, next month, next year for our clients. I think those discussions need to happen more so now than ever. Is we have a limited bandwidth, limited amount of time. What needs to be put in place to help us grow in these areas? So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I think I love what what you're both saying, and especially Todd, this idea that you mentioned of bringing in. I mean, you kind of took the words out of my mouth, just of bringing in an outside partner to help you, especially when it comes to technology, to help you take advantage of it and help you filter through these ideas and filter through your plans so that you can make the most of the technology that's available to you. And that's what you should be looking for with your technology, a partner who's going to help you do that and going to be honest with you and forthright with you, and help you as a partner. I mean, I keep saying that word, but that's really what it is. Help you as a true partner make the best decisions for your business based on what you want to achieve.
And help you avoid those unnecessary, quote, innovations like Todd's creepy example that not only will kill morale, like you said, but the first thing I thought of being in marketing is absolutely kill creativity. I can't imagine feeling like I'm constantly on the clock. That's very stressful.
Yeah, and I think that going back to this a little bit, we have to look at, excuse me, we have to also, when you're thinking about innovation, you have to come back a step and look at your own organization. What are ways that we need to innovate internally to improve morale? Because this situation of everything that's going on with COVID isn't just stressful for businesses, it's stressful for individuals. I mean, people are worried about losing their jobs. People are worried about, what happens if this happens or this happens. And I guarantee that, we know about this. There's sayings of everybody has their own struggle that they're dealing with in life. You can't ever, anybody you meet, they're going through some struggle, and so treat them kindly. But going back to, that's the idea of, when you can create a foundation of speed by improving morale in the company, improving the culture, by increasing velocity, using technology, and creating better collaboration and connectedness between employees. I mean, at JMark, that is the exciting thing for me, is because we've put in that foundation. This idea of speed, I love that. That gets me going. The fact that we can move so fast because we've created this culture, we've created these tools, these processes, and all this allows us to be able to just go at a speed that is unbelievable. And when you're trying to stay relevant, a lot of people are looking for the big, grandiose ideas. They're trying to look for this big, going to the moon type things. But sometimes the most relevant and easy thing to do is right within your own organization. It's okay to take small leaps or small jumps, but do them fast, do them quick, make them happen, and then move on to the next ones, because each of those small jumps is going to lead to the big leaps that you're hoping to. But it's important to look internally and externally. And on that same vein, we've talked about this in the past, but haven't brought it up in a while, is meet your customers where they are. Where are they now? Are they shopping from home? Are they working from home? Are they not coming to your location? Are they, what are they dealing with? What are they struggling with? And figure out your own services, your own communications, your own just processes on how to meet them where they are, because you solve that problem and you will probably be innovating and solving other problems at the same time.
Yeah, Todd, I feel like you're like reading my mind today because you keep talking about things that you'll say something I'm like, oh, I have a point to that. And then you immediately like expand on what I was thinking. But to your point about innovation and velocity, I think, that's one thing that can be a trap for some people, is thinking that innovation has to be this big thing. And this is what you spoke to, that it can be small things, and small innovations can, in the long run, have just as big an impact as searching for this grandiose idea. And they really can. Small things, it usually is the small changes you make that help you little by little increase the velocity. And one example I wanted to share is of a business that has done exactly this. Is earlier this week, I went to see my doctor for my yearly wellness exam. And as I was talking to him, it was just he and I in the office, and he sat at a laptop making notes of, updating my file of everything we're talking about. And in the past, a nurse had come in and done that. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, we changed it because of COVID. We want to have fewer people in the room, and it's less exposure for everybody. It's better for everybody. So we, made these changes. I learned this software that I hadn't been using before, and it's actually streamlined things. He said that they were just doing things in an old way because they had always done them that way. Even going back to the days before they had laptops in the exam room, the nurse would come in and write the notes, and they just adapted that. But COVID forced them to make a change that streamlined things. And he said it had actually been an advantage for them, because now that nurse is off doing something else. She's off giving flu shots. And so they're moving through patients. They're getting patients in and out faster. And they've actually increased the number of patients they're able to see per day, and done it right now in a safe way by having fewer people in the office at the same time, all because of this one small change where he embraced the technology that he hadn't been embracing before. And it had a big impact, and is going to change and make more efficient and increase the velocity of the business that they're doing.
It's a great example. I mean, I hate, and I'm sure I'm not alone, I hate going to the doctor. I mean, you sit in the waiting room forever, especially now during COVID. You're around a bunch of people that could be sick, and there's so many stories of people getting sick going to the doctor or going to the hospital. And that's just a tiny example of we need to adapt to meet our customers where they are. And they ended up making innovations that they didn't even realize they were making. It allowed them to speed up. It allowed them to essentially be more profitable and churn more people through the system and help their patients to better and faster. And so I think that's pretty awesome. That's exactly what we're talking about, is these small ways of innovating that could have huge benefits. So before we turn it over to Christina, Howard, do you have something to close us up with?
I did. And hearing you, Todd, and Dax speak, one of the things that brought out into the more strategic way of looking at innovation is an old quote. There is no innovation and creativity without failure, period. Just because you fail at a particular innovation in your company does not mean that you need to go back to the way things were. If you know where you want to be and you're trying to get to a certain destination, just because you trip and fall does not mean that I was wrong, innovation is bad, we need to go back to the way things were, I was wrong to try a different modality in my company. That's not the right answer. If you know the end of an experiment, it's not an experiment, right? It's an experiment whenever you're trying to figure out the best way to do it, what the right way are, what the wrong way is, so then you never do it again, right? That's where innovation comes from. And I don't want anyone to hear, that whatever I'm going to do, it needs to succeed the first time. Otherwise, I need to go back and go do the things that I was doing before. Clearly my restaurant isn't doing well on DoorDash. I'm going to go back to only seating in the main dining room. maybe DoorDash wasn't right for you. Maybe it's time for Uber Eats. Maybe it's time for shutting down the main dining room and only selling through pre-orders online. There are any number of ways of fulfilling your goal and getting there. It's not always what trips you up the first time. So again, no innovation without creativity, period.
Well said. Fail fast. Okay, so we're going to do something different today. I'm going to turn the time over to Christina for a few minutes to recap some of the things we talked about in this, because we know that many listening or watching, they might not want to just, I don't know, they're maybe listening to this or watching it in the road or something, not in a place to take notes. And so we've kind of done that for you to recap what are the important takeaways from today. So Christina, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to do my best, but we covered a lot of stuff. So I wanted to start with giving almost like honorable mentions to a few things that we talked about closer to the end. So we talked about the importance of speed, adaptability. Dax mentioned small changes. It doesn't have to be these huge, like Todd said, going to the moon moves for your business. Innovating internally, i.e. culture. These are all huge when it comes to our main topic of the day, which is staying relevant. But that brings me to 3 big takeaways that I heard, which were 1, security. So in order to stay relevant, you have to stay around, which means you have to protect your business. And cybercrime is more real and more, it's its own industry, and it's more intelligent than ever. And you have to have a security expert on your side. You don't necessarily have to have it internally, but you have to have one. And then that brings me to technology, which in order to stay relevant, you need to innovate. And technology really needs to be the fuel to your innovation. And you have to get in a mental space to be comfortable asking the questions, how can we use technology to solve this problem? And then that brings me to my last point, which is strategy. So it's so much more than just technology. It's the strategy behind the technology that's going to change the game. So that was kind of a wrap up of today. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you for attending this podcast. We hope it has been informative and helped convey that at JMark, we are people first and technology second. To learn more and discover additional content relevant to your business, please visit us online at jmark.com or at LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You may also call us at 844-44-JMark. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again.